Hi, my name's Tim. Welcome to the Blue Felt. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to play Forbidden Desert. Forbidden Desert is a cooperative game for 2 to 5 players, where the players are working together to excavate the ruins of a desert city. Unfortunately, on their way to the dig site, they ran into a storm and their helicopter crash landed. They'll have to work together to find the parts of an ancient flying machine buried on location, and if they find all 4 parts of the aircraft, get them to the landing pad and get away safely before getting buried in the desert storm or succumbing to the desert heat, they win the game. To start playing the game, you'll need to take the 24 desert tiles, shuffle them together and lay them out in a 5x5 grid. Make sure you leave the middle tile empty, as this represents the desert storm. Make sure you've got all tiles face down and that the compass rose is pointing in the same direction on each tile. Then, take some sand tokens and lay them out in a diamond pattern around the central storm. Make sure you've shuffled the storm deck and also shuffled the gear deck, as you'll need these to play the game. You'll also need to set up the barometer. Choose the side that has your number of players. It could be 2, 3, 4 or 5 players. And move the sliding peg so that it covers up the difficulty level you want to play at. Here I'm playing at normal difficulty. After this, players will need to choose their characters. Each character is different and are represented by different colours. After you choose your character, place its pawn on the board, take its character card and take the sliding peg and place it on the highest level on its water meter. If any character's water level ever reaches the skull and crossbones, the character dies and all players lose the game. After all players have chosen their characters, and a player has been chosen to start the game can begin. Each player's turn is divided into 2 parts. First, they can take up to 4 actions, and then they have to advance the desert storm. Their actions may consist of moving to an adjacent location, that is up, down, left or right. They can clear sand from their own space or from an adjacent space, that is up, down, left or right. Or they can excavate their tile, and doing so they flip the tile over. They can also take some special action depending on what their character abilities are, or if they've found a part they can use an action to pick that up, though they won't be doing that till later in the game. After they've taken their 4 actions, they'll need to advance the desert storm, revealing a number of cards on here depending on the current storm level. When a player takes a move action, they're allowed to move 1 tile up, down, left or right. They are not allowed to move into the desert storm tile, and they can only move into areas that have 1 or less sand token in them. If an area has 2 or more sand tokens, it's considered blocked. And if any area that they start in has 2 sand tokens on it, they aren't allowed to move from this spot until they've cleared that sand away. A remove sand action allows a player to remove 1 sand token from either their own square or an adjacent square. To do so, simply remove the sand token. An excavate action allows players to turn over their current desert tile. To do so, it must have no sand on it whatsoever. Simply turn over the tile, and if it has a gear card pictured in the bottom corner, players are also able to take a gear card from the pile. These all have different abilities and will help you out over the game. There are a number of different tiles you'll uncover over the course of the game. For example, this tile lets us know that the power crystal component is in the top row of the desert. If we happen to find the other power crystal clue, it'll tell us which column that the power crystal is located in, and we'll narrow it down to 1 specific tile. After a part has been located, players are able to pick it up by spending 1 action, provided that the tile beneath has been excavated, that is, flipped over. Other tiles you might find are the tunnel tiles. These allow players to take refuge from the desert sun, and if you find 2 different tunnel tiles, you can move between them by spending 1 move action. However, you can only do so long as they're not blocked up. If there are 2 or more sand tokens on one of the tunnel tiles, players are unable to move between them until the sand is cleared off. Other important tiles are the water tiles. These will allow players to replenish their water supply, and if they flip these over while they're standing on them, then they'll be able to replenish their water supply to max. Unfortunately, one of these is a mirage and will provide no benefit whatsoever. The final tile, and the most important tile, is the airship landing pad. After players have located all 4 of the components, they'll all need to get to the airship landing pad in order to win the game. So let's do a sample player's turn to see how it might pan out. The green player will start, and he'll start by excavating the current tile that he's on as his first action. He gets a gear card as a reward for excavating the tile. As his second action, he's going to clear sand away from an adjacent tile. Then, as his third action, he's going to move to that tile. And as his fourth, he's going to excavate it, turning it over. This gives him a hint as to where he might find the orange power crystal. After the green player takes his turn, he'll need to advance the storm. This is done by turning over a number of storm cards equal to the current level of the barometer. At the moment, this is at 3, so he'll turn over 3 cards. These are resolved one by one. First up, we'll have a look at this card. We need to make sure that the compass rose is pointed in the same direction on the card and on the tiles. And what this means is that we're going to move the storm a number of spaces indicated here. This arrow indicates which direction the tiles themselves will be moving. So this shows that tiles will be moving down, and we'll do a total of 3 movements down. However, the storm is here and there's only 2 spots above the storm that it can actually move. So what we'll do is move that one down there and that one down there. Any in excess of the number listed here are not going to be able to be moved, and they represent a bit of a reprieve for the players. Each tile that was moved now gets a sand token added to it. This can cause some of the tiles to become blocked, such as this one here, which now has 2 sand tokens on it. That's just the first card. We'll now reveal the second card. This is a Sun Beats Down card. This causes all players to lose one of their water levels. To do this, simply move the water level down by 1 on each card for each player who's out in the open. Players who are in tunnels do not have to lose one of their water levels. And the third card here is a Storm Picks Up card. This means that we move the barometer 1 step higher up. If enough of these come out, we'll eventually have to draw 4 cards a turn, and then 5 and 6. If the barometer ever reaches above the 6th level where the skull and crossbones is drawn, the players lose the game. There are 3 ways that you can lose the game. If you draw enough Storm Picks Up cards so that the peg on the barometer goes off the top, then the players have become buried in the storm. If you ever have to place a tile, a sand tile, and don't have any left, you've become buried in sand. If a player ever runs out of water due to the Sun Beats Down cards and it reaches the skull and crossbones there, all players will lose the game. If any player dies, it's it for everyone. If the players do manage to pick up all 4 of the aircraft pieces, take them to the aircraft landing pad and get everyone onto the landing pad itself, then the players will have escaped the desert and have quite a story to tell about it. And that's how you play Forbidden Desert. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. In the meantime, happy playing.